Hey everyone, it's Andy Kushner with The Wedding Biz. If you missed the last episode, it was with Dawson Haynes Mitchell, Executive Director for Lynn Easton. And today's conversation is with a globally celebrated wedding and entertainment expert, David Tutera. David is renowned for his artistic vision, unparalleled creativity, and outstanding reputation in the lifestyle industry. Beyond his success as an event expert and designer, David is also a sought-after television personality, fashion and accessory designer, entrepreneur, author, and motivational speaker. He has also expanded his influence through various product lines and educational platforms, including the David Tutera Mentorship Program and the David Tutera Experience, both designed to empower planners, designers, and event professionals. And it's been 5 years since our last podcast conversation, and so this is a great catch-up on all that he's been up to. Enjoy this new conversation with David Tutera. David, hey, I can't believe we're talking again on the podcast. This is great.
I feel like it's been like two years since I have not seen you or heard of you.
Well, I can tell you exactly. It's actually been, this is going to blow you away. It was 5 years ago. It was August of 2020. Like we were still pretty much in the pandemic.
Oh, we're in COVID world.
Yeah. Oh, you don't even want to mention that word.
I know. Me too.
Yeah. But, you know, I've been following you on Instagram as usual. And I don't know where you have the passion and energy because, you know, you and I met, my God, what was it, like 30 years? Seriously, like 25, 30 years ago.
Can you lessen that length of time for everyone else to hear?
I know. If you could see me, you'd see I have white hair now. These events have completely fried me out.
Oh, yeah, true.
I get it. But seriously, it's like the amount of, I mean, the energy that you have and the passion that you still have for this, it just seems like I wonder, like I know that sometimes I have moments of feeling burned out, but you're going strong. I mean, do you ever have moments like that? What is it like for you?
I live off of it. I don't typically get burned out. I just love the passion and creating events that make people happy and they feel like they've seen something that's never been seen before. I think my biggest portion of what I do, beyond, of course, creating epic events, is that my goal is always to give these guests and the clients something that will last for a lifetime when they experience it.
Well, I remember, too, some of the events that we did a while ago were, I mean, I don't know if the word's over the top, but amazing. I mean, I still have, I remember that one in some billionaire's airport, his own private, airport hangar. You completely transformed this massive space into, it was a dream world is what it was.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. And that airport hangar still exists. And, but anyone listening now who may be in the industry or not in the industry, clients can really rattle you. They can really make you really challenged. They don't really understand the art of payment. So we have to be a little bit more stern now in the days because it just makes our jobs that much harder when our clients are even harder than us.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, sometimes I feel like I have to be a therapist with some of these clients,
Oh, God.
Yeah. It's like we get a PhD just from doing this, but
That's true.
So tell me more about, like I also see that you're going real strong with the David Tutera Mentorship Program, the David Tutera Experience. I mean, tell me what's going on now. What are you passionate about now?
Well, we had the mentorship program back when COVID was, alive, and we wanted to give the opportunity to those in this industry because they couldn't get out and learn and find places and be with people. There were so many mandates that made it difficult. So that was a big success. And then we took a pause, obviously. And Joey and myself thought, let's reboot the old version of it with a complete different perspective of letting those that are in the industry say the right things, learn the right things, and act the right way, and you definitely make it happen.
Yeah. Can you give me some examples of what you cover?
In the case of like what we do for each of the events.
Yeah, like just what some of the biggest items are.
Well, I could tell you we're working. I'll tell you a current story is that I can't name names because they're under an NDA. We have a massive project coming up in New York City for a very well-known person and a lovely person, by the way. And he's celebrating his 80th birthday, and we're going to really take this to the highest level. But what's interesting is after we worked on a project that was in the kind of end of COVID, we were granted an amazing event which was across the globe, and it was all live streamed. So we were over the everywhere, and we were creating events different in each campus. So mind you, we were probably now, if you think about it, we probably were doing about 40 events on one day.
Oh my God.
Spread out.
Wow.
I thought when we got the call, I was like, what? Sometimes you get calls from clients and they're like trying to push your buttons and you think they're not real. I wasn't quite sure this was a company that was real. I didn't think they were real, but reality is that they were very real because they had a lot of funds to allow us to celebrate their 100th celebration of their company. That was a hard project.
And you're saying this was during the pandemic? It was all online? Is that what you were just saying?
No. We got the call in the middle of COVID to see if we would be interested when COVID released.
Oh, gotcha.
And we jumped right into it. And again, we hired massive performers. It was just one of my most favorite things I've ever done in my life.
Wow. And to get the call, like you say, in the middle of COVID, when we're feeling, vulnerable and our finances are, questionable. I mean, to get a call like that, that's incredible. What great timing.
Yeah, because we thought we were going to have to wait for much longer to have things open up. And when we got that call, as you shared, it didn't sink in because we got the call from an outside source, not somebody within the actual company. And I think that was intentional for them doing that to us. So Joey picked the call and replied back, and then after he got off of the call, comes over to me and goes, "We're being asked to do this very large, massive event for a very big company, and it will take probably a year to produce to let it come to life." And it was, when I tell you, it's one of my proudest moments in my career because it was so complicated and the company was very complicated. But we pulled off something that I never in my career would have thought we could have done.
Can you tell me any more detail? I know people listening are going to be like dying to know, more about this. Like what, I think two parts of it, like what are some of the major aspects of it that you did? And also what made it so complicated? I mean, we can imagine because you're doing it in so many different locations across the globe, but any more specifics you can discuss would be really interesting.
Great question, because there's always a challenging person in the room that sort of makes it more complicated for us as a company. We had to legitimately get all sign-offs from the CEO. Now, the CEO isn't creative. The CEO is, running the business. So having to go into his office and say, "This is what I've created. This is what I would like to see if you like. And there's another one. Do you like the third?" We always give 3 options. I always assume the third one is the bad one, and it typically works. But what I was shocked about was that the CEO was incredibly engaged in the wrong way. Like he didn't like what I was doing. And then his team outside of his source had to convince him that David Tutera knows exactly what he's doing, and he's going to do the best you'll ever get. And it took, honestly, it took, Jesus, months to get him to sign up with us. And it worked. And it only worked because sometimes we're very quick to get the gig, right? And sometimes when you do that, you might realize, oh my God, I did get the gig, but I didn't go deep enough to know who the person is, the personality, how they act, how they want something specific. And that's when you have to stop for at least a good time. So you can say, I can do this event for you as epic as you want or as simple as you want, because I always say to my clients, I need to get to know you. And if I don't know who you are, you're a stranger, I need to be in your space. So you learn from different people in different places, and it helps. It helps all of us in the industry. If you don't have the intel, you're walking on a tightrope, and that's not good.
Well, yeah. How do you reflect their personality and all of, if you just don't know, which is what it's all about, right? Or that's a big part of it, obviously.
It is. And often, many clients in all genres of what we do, because we do all different kinds of events, in the middle of the process of creating the content, you'll all of a sudden get a call like, I don't like that. We spent 4 months doing this and you loved everything. And now you're telling me now, I don't think this is the right thing for us. So what we do as planners, designers, and, professionals, you have to tell them that you're going to have to pay more money because you just put us through the whole thing and you want to start a whole new process. So that's like 2 contracts. That's not like 1 contract. So you have to be very delicate with the clients, because we've learned over the past, I would say probably the past 2.5 years, the clients have gotten savvy, difficult, will not agree. They'll push our buttons to lessen the cost. And the answer to all of those things and more that they've shared to us, no, and no, because we're running a business. So you can't just flip on a dime and assume we're going to create a whole new concept, because that takes an abundance of time.
Well, and you would think, I mean, especially the kind of clients that you have, a lot of them are high net worth, people. You would think that of all people, they understand business and they understand the time and the effort, even though it's a creative, thing, that you would think that they understand this, the business side of it.
I agree with you on that 100%. And the problem is that they hear it, but they don't execute it. So, we've had a lot of difficult clients recently, and we have a plethora of phenomenal people that are clients of ours, many of which we've stayed in touch and sent birthday parties to their kids, parties. You have to create that connection. You have to I call it getting to know you. And that is really important. If you don't know who they are, what they want, what their backgrounds are, what their religion is, what is the storytelling they're looking for, because I always say we're storytellers, not creators. And it works. When you get to know who we're working with, not on a Zoom call, in person, jump on a flight, go meet them and do it.
Yeah, you just brought up something too, which obviously started with the pandemic, which drives me crazy, which is this whole Zoom thing. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, because some of the stuff is obvious, right? We can't really read the body language. It's just a complete different thing being in person and feeling their, whatever you want to call it, or just it's a different thing, being in person. I can't stand it. So you do that. You'll easily just jump on a plane in spite of all the time it takes so that you can be there in person with these people, at least in the beginning, right?
Yeah. Well, when we first get the calls from the clients that they want to immediately hire us, they don't even ask what it's going to cost, because these clients are high end. But you're right. With the whole thing with COVID makes it really different because you can't see, like you just said, you can't read what they're thinking by looking at the visuals of their face or how they react in an odd way. If they think, like, if I throw out something like, we're going to create a LED tree that's about 20 feet tall with real flowers on it, with the LED blended into it. And they thought I was out of my mind. They were worried about the cost. I convinced them that it was necessary, and that's how it worked. If I try to do it with, like we're doing now, I can't see you. How am I going to know if you like something or if you dismiss or you dislike something?
Well, and I want to add something to this too. There's the whole personal connection. I mean, just being able to shoot the shit when you first meet and be able to be casual and connect in that way. Because as you know, when you're on a Zoom call or something like that, it's so much more business. I mean, yeah, we can be friendly, but it just seems so much more limited, the opportunity to really just hang with somebody, which is such a big part of developing, let's call it not only your relationship with the client, but turning them into a legacy client.
I love that. That's true. It's a very great way of saying that. Yes.
Yeah. And I imagine for you too, that the legacy clients who you have who call and just say, David, I know you, I know what you do. Here's the budget, or maybe there's no budget, and here's what I need. Just tell me what to do, right? I'm sure you have clients like that. That's the best.
We have them now. I mean, we have, can't say who they are, but we have a client coming up in Las Vegas. No ask about cost, nothing. They fly us directly there on their private planes.
Right.
They treat us like we're, the best of everything. And that does help because then there's somewhat of a family connection too.
Yeah.
So you're doing both, client relationship and also feeling like you're embedding yourself into their world.
Yeah. I've been asked where I gained the inspiration and expertise to host this show, The Wedding Biz, and it all comes from my own experience in the weddings and event industry of creating world-class entertainment to support our custom entertainment design. Kushner Entertainment features outrageously dynamic bands, strings, and a host of other entertainment acts that have won numerous international, national, and local to the Washington, D.C. area awards, not only for individual acts, such as the band Sound Connection, but also for our highly engaging and captivating entertainment design concepts. Go to KushnerEntertainment.com to learn more about the ultimate in event entertainment. That's KushnerEntertainment.com. I want to ask you too, with, as busy as you are, you've always been, and I mean, I guess we all are in this industry, but I know, again, even from knowing you and then the Instagram post, how are you bound? Like, you talk a lot, which I love. It's in your website, it's in your Instagram posts about your daughters and Joey, your relationship. The balance of work and personal life seems so hard for us in this industry. We're working so many of the weekdays, and then we got the weekends where most of the events are. How do you feel about that? How are you pulling it off?
That's a good question.
Are you pulling it off? Maybe I should ask that question.
We are pulling it off. It was a bad question, but a good question because I have answers. And it took us a bit of a moment to try to figure out how you do that. So, like, if we're on a Zoom call or we're on a live call, we make it very clear we have two different offices in our house. So Joey's on one side, I'm on the other side. So if the two girls feel a great deal looking for us, they'll find us and they'll come in the middle of the Zoom call, and all we do is say, we just put our hand up a little bit and say, so can you just go away for a little bit? We're in a call. We'll be done really quick. And they understand it. I think if you take a child that's coming in at maybe the same age or a little bit older, they'll fight with you because they want to be part of it. Our kids don't do that. And they travel with us also too.
Oh, really? For events, you're saying?
They travel to events, which I like because they're getting a chance to see part of the country, and they're also getting a chance to learn about what we do. Like we do parties. They know we do parties, right? But they don't know the abundance of what we do. And I love seeing them learning something and being like, oh my gosh, daddy and daddy, how did you do this? Sometimes I say, I don't know, but we did.
It's interesting you say that. I've got a daughter, and I remember there was a certain point when she was young. I mean, I don't know, I can't remember what age, maybe 12, I started to actually share stuff about the business, not only what I did, the creative side, but the business of it too, just so that she could absorb as much as she can, in order to apply it to whatever she wants to do as she gets older. But I purposely thought about that. I thought, you know what? I'm going to start actually giving her not a shitload of detail, but some. I'm going to give her some information here.
Yeah, it's like, when they're not aware of when they're learning, which is always the great part, because when they're in school, they don't want to listen. So when they're here, like for example, you brought up a good moment, is that if the girls or any child is working with their parents and they're traveling, they're going to learn something. They'll learn about, organization. They'll hear about us talking about timelines. They'll ask, like, what's an organization? And then we explain it. And the same goes with the other various topics that come up. And I think that is a inside version of learning instead of an outside version of learning.
Oh, I think it's more effective than school. I mean, to actually experience something like this, you absorb it more.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I want to ask you too, there's some quotes on your website that I love. There's a lot. And I guess I found them, I don't know, in various places. And there's some of them I'd love to just dig in a little bit more with you. One of them is everyone can be creative. The only thing stopping you is you. Capital letters, you, exclamation point.
Yep. And that is meant to not be just for the industry. That is exactly created, I wrote, because I wanted the people that are doing anything in their lives to read that quote and do it and make it easy.
Yeah. But I guess the point is, when a lot of us, feel like we're struggling and, what do we do and how do we do it? I think there's so much, deeper, really being able to, get into your own head and your own heart. And are we self-sabotaging? Because I'm sure you've seen it too, especially in the music business, David. I see it a lot, self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Holding yourselves back. Also this one too, I love. You said, always make every person in the room feel special. And I took it literally. Like when you say every person, I know you're not talking about just the guests of honor, your clients, but every single person in that room, right? Whether it's 100 or 500, like how do you make each person feel special? I love that. I think that's critical.
I wrote that a long time ago and I fell in love with that. What I wrote was because people show up to events. We all know that. And they typically are showing up knowing nothing, right? They just know that you have an invite. It's either a black tie or it's casual. And they arrive. But when they arrive, they're being greeted with kindness. And then they wind up going into the ballroom or whatever venue they're in. And things happen. We're not stagnant when we do our events. They're legitimately orchestrated with a very, 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 very deep timeline. And we stick to it as best as we can. And if those are the surprises that pop up that don't typically are seen, and that is what makes them feel, very special in the room.
Yeah, I remember when at one point we were working together and you said something to me. We were talking about logistics ahead of time and the planning and your vision. And I wanted to help you. And if I could take it to another level from an entertainment perspective. And I'll never forget when you said, and I've used this a million times, when you said it was something like, Andy, every 15, 20 minutes, something like that, something has to happen. There's got to be a moment. I love that. I've never forgotten that.
And it works. It works so well. And then what happens is they love it so much they don't want to leave. That's another good thing because clients love to arrive, but they also want to bail out because they feel it's too long. So that's our job in this industry, is to create literally create a timeline specific to not the food, not the walk in or walk out. It's creating a scenario that people feel like, oh, whoa, what is going on over there? Right? Oh my gosh, I think I need to go over there and see what's happening. And they go and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. Or we go to the opposite corner of the space and something happens, or all of a sudden an entertainer comes down from the ceiling. I mean, these are things that are hard to do, but the point is, like you shared with me, is that you want people to not want to leave. You want them to feel that they've arrived and enjoying themselves, and then it comes to the very last end and go, I cannot believe I just experienced all this. How did they do it?
And you're right. I mean, like when I go to parties where I'm a guest, I am thinking, when can I leave? Before I get there. Before I get there, like how long do I have to stay here? And it's the events like you just mentioned where I wish it didn't end. That is the key. Where I wish that it wasn't ending. I love those.
Yeah, we've had a lot of parties recently. Back in last year, where there were so many big events. We had two specifically. No, three. No, four. It was a 4-night event. And the people never wanted to leave. They would not leave. And the only reason why, because I just shared it, was they were staying because they knew and felt something's going to happen again.
Right,
and then
right.
we pause it and it happens again. And all of a sudden it gets bigger. And they're leaving with their head blown up.
Yeah. Yeah, I think from my experience, there are some planners, designers who I don't think are taking advantage of every possible moment. For example, not to get into a whole litany of options here, but for example, even though cake cuttings are maybe not as big as they used to be, those moments, there are still people who make them a moment. Why not? Whatever, a change of lighting, a change of backdrop. If you have music, the music does something completely different. I mean, something that creates these moments every chance that you can. And like you say, at least every 15, 20 minutes, at least.
Yeah. Yep. And when we do that stuff, when we carefully select and create our internal timeline, so we know when each piece is going to happen. But each piece, like you said, cutting the cake, right? That's the boringest thing in the whole wide world for a wedding or for any party. I think it's pointless.
Yeah.
But if people are going to want to continue to keep that, which is fine, it's our job now to figure out what's going to circle around that space or come down. We've done cakes coming down from the ceiling. We want to make sure people are seeing things that they never thought that they would ever experience.
Right. And it becomes another moment.
Exactly.
You also said there is a solution, capital letters, to everything. Take a moment, capital letters, you'll find it. So again, there is a solution to everything. Take a moment, you will find it. I love that too. For me, David, it's having the perspective, the attitude, the perspective that that there's an answer to everything, and especially these last minute crises that we go through at events, and that there is a solution. And when I believe that, compared to the past, when I would really freak out and get anxious and wonder, when I now just believe and stay calm, I always find an answer. There's a solution.
But that's because you know what you're doing, Andy. And that's also because you know you can do it. There are not many people in the industry that would say, I can't do it, right? We don't have enough time. We can't figure it out. We can't get it in the room. And that's just sort of, I call that like a C designer / C, the word I'm trying to find. I just think that they don't want to do the extra work because it wasn't expected to be done. But
maybe with some, yeah.
You have to step in. The more you step in and make the job better while it's going through its timeline, the guests don't know anything, but the couple or the guests that were or the people that are actually pulling off the event who hired us, they're the ones that typically notice it because they know all the details that are happening. And sometimes we do have to say, oh, you know what, there's going to be this massive chandelier in the spa. Are you comfortable with it? And, they have to say yes or no because they may want it to be in the corners. But it works. It works when you are legitimately honest and you are legitimately caring and you're legitimately knowing that anything that we're doing or possibly going to do is going to have to work, and it has to be worked out with safety.
Yeah. And I would add to that, staying calm, right? So that we have the space to be able to figure this out. I remember, David, it's funny. Band members, I'm no longer in my top band, but I was in it for a while. And there were times when band members would say, man, you are making us anxious. And it was because I was wearing my emotion on my sleeves. I would walk fast, right? There'd be an expression on my face. My eyes would be bulging out. I had to really work to just stay calm.
Yeah. The two things you said are very accurate. It's like you do have to stay calm. You really do. And when things happen, you have to jump in. And even though we don't know what's happening yet, we have to figure out what it is. And then we have to, take the journey through and either dismiss the person if that is causing an issue, or something broke and something didn't work, it has to be dismissed. It's almost like we come in, not myself, but it's almost like our team comes in like ghosts and they disappear and no one even knows it better.
Yeah. Yeah. I got one more, which I think would be such a good one to end on. I love this one. You said somewhere, I read this, the little things in life are the biggest moments to cherish.
Yeah.
Can you say more about that? I love that.
Yeah, it is. And I'm dealing with it right now. I lost my mom 2 weeks ago. So the biggest moments are the ones that need to be,
or the littlest moments, you mean? The
littlest moments, yes. The littlest moments. But for me, the littlest moment was the little moment. The big other version of the process that I'm going through is a big moment also. So it's how you see it and how you believe in it. And some people just glide over all that stuff. And it helps when you have a story in your heart, whether it be painful or happy. Sometimes, and for me right now, I'm taking both sides of it. And that's helping me to create my new version of how I see things.
It really is poignant and profound. And it's interesting. My father had already passed away. My mother's 92 now, and I'm very aware of this is all bonus time right now. I mean, any moment I can get a call. I mean, and I just, it's just so precious. Every single, and like you say, it's the little things. It just puts everything else in perspective. For me, I find, it's easy to forget that. And so I think the work here is to just keep that gratitude every moment, just keep it there, keep it in front of us.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, David, thank you for doing this. I love talking to you. We go way back, and I love to see all the success you're having that you're going through. And also like this, where you're putting your focus and attention is on the important stuff. I love it. It's great. Everyone needs to just keep that in mind. Yeah.
One of the things I would like to close with for you and for your listeners is that every person needs to experience what they're seeing and taking in the love and taking in the compassion. Because most people in the industry don't understand that. They just think it's like, let's put a pretty party together. Let's, do our best and just, that's what it is. That's not what we do. We make sure that my happiest things that happen when I see people crying and knowing that they're crying with happiness, that means that we did our job the right way for those people who we don't know, so they can go home and feel that joy, that happiness, that compassion, as long as they can hold on to it.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Well, thank you, David. This has been wonderful. As always, every one of our conversations, it's always wonderful.
I know. I'll happily do it anytime in the future. You tell me. I adore you, so I'm always here for you.
Well, thanks. Same for you, Dave. Take care.
You too.
Thank you for listening to my conversation with David Tutera. Be sure to check out his websites, which are davidtutera.com and also davidtuteramentorship.com. You can find him on Instagram at David Tutera. Be sure to tune in next time to hear my new interview with Colin Cowie. Colin talks all about reinvention. It's quite a conversation. And in the meantime, follow us on Instagram at The Wedding Biz